Hello there and welcome to Primetime News here on TV1. You're joining me, David Paldano. Now before we head into your stories in more detail, let's first take a look at your headlines this evening.
Bring an act to Parliament to provide compensation to farmers, opposition leader demands, while addressing farmers in Polonnaruwa. Protest staged against the full implementation of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. Prevention of Terrorism Act to be replaced completely. A statement from Minister G.L. Pires. Trade unions oppose statement made by Justice Minister to remove the right of trade unions to protest. 1 year since the COVID-19 vaccination drive began, Minister felicitates health sector for their service. Deadly accident along the highway.
Now taking a look at some headline-making stories. The commissioning parade of the Sri Lanka Air Force was held at the Sri Lanka Air Force Base in Katunayake today. This was under the patronage of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
A total of 153 cadets who completed their training on the 6 categories of courses in a span of 3.5 to 4.5 years passed out.
Your fundamental duty as young officers is to develop yourselves and further your careers. Your integrity must be impeccable and your discipline must be of the highest standard. As a technical arm of the military, the Air Force demands absolute competence and allows no room for error regardless of whether you are a pilot or involved in ground operations. Your professionalism too must therefore be outstanding. You must work hard to continuously improve your knowledge, further develop your skills and learn from the lessons imparted through your experience.
14 officer cadets who excelled in all courses received awards from the President. The President also posed for a group photo with the passing out officers after witnessing the performance by the Air Force military band.
The agriculture policy of the Samagi Janabalawege was launched in Polonnaruwa today. It was held under the theme Ekpa Perata Yamu Duk Gini Nivalamu.
Increasing the productivity of harvest of plants and animals, strengthening agricultural exports, strengthening the farming community socially and economically, and increase the contribution from the agriculture sector to the national economy are among some of the proposals made in the agriculture policy statement of the Samagi Janabalawege. The agricultural policy of the SJB was handed over to the opposition leader Sadit Premadasa by the national organizer of the Samagi Janabalawege, Parliamentarian Nalin Bandara.
Our primary vision is to ensure food security in the country. We would like to state that we will remove the ban imposed on chemical fertilizer and agrochemicals and provide quality fertilizer without any shortage at a reasonable price. All governments that were elected after independence gave the farming community their due respect in the society. The current government is trying to brand the farmer who provided rice to the people of this country as people who supply poison to the country. We can restore the fertilizer subsidy that was slashed. We will provide that subsidy, but we cannot reverse the insult made by this government against the farming community of the country. The current government of the country is very cruel. They slashed the fertilizer subsidy at the start of the Maha season. When the farmers began to reap their harvest, the government went ahead and imported rice from India and China. This government has created a situation where the lives of these farmers have gone from bad to worse. Today we are hearing talks of the dark shadows of a famine. Our country held the #1 position on Food Security Index in South Asia. By November 2021, we had dropped in the global rankings on food security from the 66th position to the 77th position. Now we have to question the government as to if they are paying compensation to the fields that were damaged as a result of this. No matter how many statements are made by the cabinet, not a cent was allocated for this in the budget. We demand the government to immediately formulate a program to provide compensation to these farmers. Bring that program to Parliament. We are ready to support the government to do this. We are not ready for a program that would provide only a pittance to farmers. I would like to state that we are ready to take to the streets in a peaceful manner.
අස්වැන්න අඩුවීමට වන්දි ගෙවන්න. අපි ආණ්ඩුවට බල කර සිටිනවා වහාම වන්දි ක්‍රමවේදය සකස් කරන්න. ඒ වන්දි ක්‍රමවේදය වහාම පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට ගෙනෙන්න. ඒ අනුමත කරගන්නට අවශ්‍ය සියලුම සහාය අපි ලබා දෙන්න ලෑස්ති. සොච්චමක් විතරක් ලබා දෙන වැඩපිළිවෙලකට අපි සූදානම් නැහැ. ප්‍රමාණවත් වන්දි ලබා නොදුන්නොත් සාධාරණත්වය ඉෂ්ට කරන්නට ප්‍රමාණවත් වන්දි ලබා දෙන්නට අපි සාමකාමීව මහ පාරට බහින්න සූදානම් කියන එක මේ අවස්ථාවේ කියන්න කැමතියි.
Farmers across the country have been affected by the fertilizer crisis. Farmers lament that they have not reaped enough harvest regardless of their hard work. Traders say as a result, the supply of fruits and vegetables to the market has dropped. How has this issue affected the consumers?
දැන් ඉතින් බොහොම අමාරු ජීවත් වෙන්න වේලක් කාලා වේලක් බඩගිනින් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. ජීවිතෙත් එපා වෙලා තියෙන ළමයි 4 දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. මහත්යත් නැහැ. වෙන සල්ලි මන්දි. මේක කැමරා යන එක එක්ක නගාවට ගිහලා දීලා තමයි ජීවත් වෙන්නේ.
මම වගා කරන මිනිහෙක්. මේ ලීක්ස් කරලා මේම තිබ්බ එක දැන් මේම තියෙනවා. දැන් මේ අවුරුද්දට අලුත් අවුරුද්දට කණ්ඩක් නැති වෙන එළවලු එකක්වත් නැහැ. මේ සයිස් එකට මන්ට ලීක්ස් දාලා ගලවලා විකුණන්න බෑනේ.
කැරට් 250 150යි. බෝන්ජි 100යි. එළවලු තත්ත්වය පොඩ්ඩක් ගණන් වැඩි තමයි. සමහර කට්ටිය බැන බැන අරන් යනවා.
Rice was sold at various prices at retail stores and supermarkets in Nochiyagama Tamuttegama. However, the situation was different when Minister Bandula Gunawardena visited the wholesale market in Fort.
These are the prices in the market. This is the reality. There is a rice mafia. The import of rice at a 25-cent concession was allowed to put a stop to this mafia. I have ordered all Satos outlets to sell on retail 10 kilograms of rice at 128 rupees per kilogram. A kilogram of Nadu rice will be sold at 105 rupees in all Satos outlets island-wide. A relief pack worth 3,998 rupees will be distributed. This will be 1,700 rupees less than the original price.
Can the consumers be satisfied with Dr. Bandula Gunawardena's plan?
සන්තෝෂ වෙන්න පුළුවන්ද අපිට? අර පැස්බරා වාගේ අර ඔළුව ගහගෙන ඉන්නවා වැල්ල ඇතුලේ. ගහගෙන ලෝකෙට පේන්නේ නැහැ කියලා හිතේ තියාගෙන සමරනවා. බොරුවෙන් රජ.
You can't rule a country by lying to the people. That era is over. There is no cement, no gas, no milk powder, no wheat flour, no fuel, no power, no coal or even medicine. There is no point in speaking of this.
අන්න මොනවද තියෙන්නේ කියලා?
Minister Rohita Gunawardena proposed a solution to the prevailing issues, including the fur crisis in the country.
The power crisis is a result of the fuel crisis. What must we do as citizens of this nation? We must reduce the electricity usage in our homes. We must be cautious and we must support these efforts. If we can, we must reduce the usage of our vehicles. We must reduce the amount of fuel we consume. Many people, including children in countries like Japan, Korea and Europe, travel on bicycle. The minister suggests that we travel on bicycles. They are asking us to reduce drinking water and use electricity sparingly. They asked us to use our dollars carefully. They told us to use fuel carefully as well. They suggest that we walk instead of traveling in vehicles. The government is bankrupt. As a result, the people have been severely inconvenienced.
The citizens of the country are suffering because of the economic hardships that continue to increase while the country continues to sink into more debt. Against such a backdrop, the Indian government extended a $1.5 billion credit line for the import of essential food items, medicine and fuel. Since India extended such a large financial aid package, proposals for the 13th Amendment to the Constitution to be implemented fully has come to the forefront of the debates among political parties in the north. Recently, leaders of 7 Tamil political parties had written to Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi through the Indian High Commissioner in Sri Lanka, requesting for the Indian Prime Minister to intervene and call for the full implementation of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. The Tamil National Alliance is also a signatory to this document. Convening a media briefing today, TNA parliamentarian Govindam Karunaharan clarified their request.
India and Sri Lanka has maintained relations for a long period of time. India supports in development projects in the north and the east. They build houses in the estates. India supports Sri Lanka that is currently facing many economic hardships. By fully implementing the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, we can ensure our existence.
Meanwhile, the Tamil National People's Front has launched a protest against the full implementation of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. The protest was led by the leader of the party, Gajendra Kumar Ponnambalam. The protest march continued for the 3rd day today from Arali in Jaffna to Manipai.
We need to defeat these supporters of a unitary state. At a time when the government of Gotabaya Rajapaksa is attempting to pass a new constitution, they are attempting to include all the provisions of the 13th Amendment in this new constitution. All other parties except the Tamil National People's Front are involved in this conspiracy to demand for the provisions of the 13th Amendment to the constitution to be implemented fully. We are of the stance that we need a federal solution. The party of Gajendra Kumar is attempting to portray us as an agent of India. Who are you representing? Today the situation is such that the Chinese ambassador visits Jaffna and checks how far is India from that point. But they have not opposed that.
This is the stance of Minister Douglas Devananda with regard to the 13th Amendment to the Constitution.
I always said that the 13th Amendment to the Constitution could be a good start. But today, after 30 years, a group of Tamil political parties have united and sent a letter to the Indian Prime Minister. This is what I said from the start.
Meanwhile, Foreign Minister Professor G.L. Pires said that internal matters of Sri Lanka must be solved through an internal mechanism.
No, these are problems to be resolved with the leadership of this country. The President, the Prime Minister, the Parliament of Sri Lanka, that is the only way to put in place viable solutions to these issues.
We will provide an opportunity for Tamil parties to hold discussions with the President.
Tamil political parties are discussing the 13th Amendment to the Constitution while considering India as a stakeholder. This comes at a time when the UNHRC sessions are set to take place in March. Speaking in Jaffna, Foreign Minister Professor G.L. Pires said a completely new Prevention of Terrorism Act will be introduced.
No, what is being done is, now these are the immediate amendments. Now we are doing this in 2 stages. The entire PTA legislation is being reviewed and there will be a new law in due course. Completely new law. Now this is a law enacted in 1979, 42 years old. So as a first step, we have come up with urgent amendments. These are not all the amendments. These are being enacted as a matter of priority. Say what has happened is the President has appointed an officials committee that consists of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Defence and the Attorney General's Department. Then the report of the officials committee will come to a cabinet subcommittee. We are both members of it, right? So the officials committee and the cabinet subcommittee have both been vested with responsibility for drafting a completely new law, comprehensive law, which will replace the 1979 law.
The Foreign Minister also met with relatives of missing persons during a program under the theme Access to Justice in Jaffna today. A group of relatives, however, voiced their objection towards the program.
This is taking place according to plan. The UNHRC sessions are coming up in March. They are simply acting out a drama. This is not a joke but a challenge.
Diplomats from countries who supported Sri Lanka against the resolutions that were presented at the UNHRC sessions in Geneva are now visiting the country. Foreign Minister Professor G.L. Pires yesterday thanked Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu for the support Sri Lanka received at the UN General Assembly. The Foreign Minister expressed his gratitude when he met with his Turkish counterpart yesterday. Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó also visited Sri Lanka recently. During a meeting with him, Professor G.L. Pires reiterated the need to optimize utilization of the EU GSP Plus facility in accessing the Hungarian market. Meanwhile, Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian is also expected to visit Sri Lanka at the end of this month.
Back in the day, it was the Dutch, the Portuguese and the British. Now it's China, India and the United States. This country is worth the money they pay. Just think about it. What did the rulers do back then? What are the rulers doing now? The Western world wants to take over our land, and our rulers just stood there and just sold it off to them. We ask our rulers, you have ruled our country for 74 years, and what are the international relations you have developed over the years? They have taken over so many things on our land. We haven't taken over anything that belongs to them. The Chinese very clearly know that we can't run the port. They knew that they can easily take over, and that's exactly what they did. They are planning on building another port city in Gaul. They know that it is also land in their hands. Our rulers wanted an airport in Mattala. The Chinese built one. They built a 500-seater auditorium in Hambantota, and now we are drowning in debt. They gave it from one hand and took it back from the other. We have to pay them 2,600 million just as interest every year. That's 500,000 a day. Sri Lanka goes to work in the morning so that the government can pay interest to foreigners. I'm not talking about debt. This is just the interest.
There is an opposition to the statement made recently by Minister of Justice, President's Counsel Ali Sabri, suggesting to ban the rights to protest for 6 industries, claiming that it has a direct impact on the country's economy.
There are a number of strategic economic centers, including the port, customs, the water board, the electricity board, the petroleum corporation. Strikes at all of these institutions must be banned. They must not be given that right through the constitution.
A number of trade unions oppose this statement. Petroleum Trade Unions Collective.
They said that Sri Lanka is taking special steps to protect human rights in the country. This is what they said at the United Nations Human Rights Commission. The government wants to abolish our right to protest so that there will be no one to oppose them auctioning off the port, oil refineries, power plants and every other national asset that generates income. Are they expecting us to sit down and keep quiet while they sell our country and steal our tax money? We are not prepared to let that happen.
Sri Lanka Teachers Union.
It saddens me to see that the Minister of Justice itself is trying to take away the people's rights. We will take strict trade union action if they try to impose such laws.
Sri Lanka Nidahas Sevaka Sangame Ports Authority.
The country is in dire straits. They are not taking any steps to provide relief to the people of this country, but instead the government is trying to take away the democratic rights of its people. It's about time we checked if these ministers are sane.
Joint Council of Professions supplementary to medicine.
The only reason trade unions are taking to the streets is because the ministers responsible for these ministries aren't doing their job properly. We would like to inform the President, you may be very fond of these political bootlickers. This may also be another attempt by the government to take away the civic rights of its people. Don't worry, you'll reap the harvest of the seeds that you sow during the next election.
We're going in for a short commercial break. Stay tuned for more of the very latest.
News First, main sponsor.
Sun all-purpose disinfectant spray.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Sri Lanka marked 1 year since it launched the vaccination drive against COVID-19. A total of 35,634,497 doses of 5 types of vaccines were administered during the past year.
23,029,353 doses of the Sinopharm vaccine were administered in the country, while 7,798,598 doses of the Pfizer vaccine were administered. 16,626,011 people have received only 1 dose of the vaccine, while 13,911,181 have received 2 doses. 5,097,305 have been fully vaccinated with the booster dose as well. 63% of the eligible population have received 2 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine. 24% have been fully vaccinated. 39% are yet to obtain the booster shot. An event to celebrate 1 year since the COVID-19 vaccination drive began was held at the Ministry of Health. When the vaccination drive was launched, there was a huge cry in Parliament. They said this vaccination program will not be successful. This is the result of the risks taken by all staff members of the health sector.
විශේෂයෙන්ම අවදානම ඇඟට අරගෙන කටයුතු කරපු එකේ ප්‍රතිඵලයක් හැටියට තමයි අද මේ තත්ත්වයට අපි පත් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ.
Ceremonies were organized at the regional level to felicitate health sector staff from across the country. Views on the vaccination drive were expressed in the political arena. They first said that the Pfizer vaccine was for the elite class. There were concerns as to why everyone was not administered with the Pfizer vaccine. They protested against it. Various superstitious ideas were propounded. People spoke about a tonic. All TV channels reported on the tonic. The superstitions were popular, but all of us must be proud of our vaccination drive. This milestone marks the beginning of a successful history of vaccination. Should we be celebrating 1 year of the vaccination drive or a year of stupid decisions made by the government? Over 15,000 people have died due to COVID-19. If the vaccination drive was carried out methodically, at least 1/3 of that group could have survived the virus. The country was preparing to administer the vaccine after carrying out all necessary tests. They could have purchased vaccines at $1.5 to $2, but they were stubborn. They said they will order the vaccines when they want to. They threw pots into rivers claiming that the vaccines were unnecessary. They distributed tonics. They were playing with the people's lives. The World Health Organization recommended that the vaccine can be administered to those above 60 years and those at risk of contracting the virus. But they decided to choose certain areas to begin with, like Hambantota. As a result, over 70% of the deaths were from those unvaccinated and above the age of 60.
A 40-year-old Sri Lankan man residing in Perth, Australia, who killed 2 of his children, has been identified. Police said the incident is being treated as a double murder suicide. According to Western Australia Police, 40-year-old Indika Gunatilaka murdered his 4-year-old daughter and 6-year-old son before ending his own life in the garage of their home in southeast Perth suburb of Huntingdon. Authorities were alerted after they failed to arrive for a meeting with their mother and rushed to their home at about 6:30 p.m. Australian time. Police said initial investigations led police to believe there was no other person involved in the deaths. Police added that the incident is being treated as a double murder suicide. According to foreign media, Assistant Police Commissioner Alan Adams said the 40-year-old father was found dead in the garage of their home with the 2 children inside after their mother alerted a family member that her children are missing from a predetermined pickup location. Gunatilaka, who was a town planner, had only 6 weeks ago posted a video on social media about his recent struggles with depression in an effort to help others feeling the same way. Now on to some headline-making stories. 15 people died as a result of accidents that were reported during the past 24 hours. 9 of the victims died in accidents that were reported yesterday, and 2 people died in an accident that occurred at the outer circular highway this morning.
A lorry travelling towards Kadawatha along the highway collided with another vehicle that had been stopped along the highway after that vehicle experienced technical difficulties. The accident occurred at about 3 this morning. The lorry that was involved in the accident went up in flames. When the two vehicles collided, the driver of the lorry was thrown off his seat onto the road. Another person travelling in the lorry was inside the lorry when the vehicle went up in flames. Among the deceased was the 57-year-old owner of the lorry and a 44-year-old person who drove the lorry. The lorry that was involved in the accident was purchased only yesterday. The owner of the lorry was travelling towards Andiambalama in Katunayaka from a relative's home in Alpitia. Initial investigations revealed that the other vehicle had stopped on the middle of the highway to change a tyre. We give instructions to drivers travelling along highways. We have observed that drivers are not adhering to some of these instructions. If a vehicle experiences any technical difficulties, you must not attempt to repair your vehicle. You must contact 1969 and seek assistance of the emergency services that are available.
4 bodies of the 5 people who drowned while bathing at the Garandi Ala Falls in Bandarwala have been recovered. 1 more person is missing. Search operations are underway to locate the body of the missing person as well. A 15-year-old boy has died after falling off the top floor of a 7-story building in Bamlepitia today.
A 15-year-old resident of Crystal Place, Colombo 4, was admitted to the General Hospital after he fell off the top floor of a 7-storied building. He succumbed to his injuries upon admission to hospital. The Bamlepitia police are conducting further investigations into the incident.
The selections of winners of the provincial rounds of Vanita Abhimanya 2021 concluded today. The winners of the provincial rounds will qualify to compete in the national rounds of Vanita Abhimanya 2021 organized by Newsfirst together with NDB. The provincial rounds of the Eastern Province was held in Batticaloa today.
Vanita Abhimanya 2021 is organized to felicitate and empower the resilient women of Sri Lanka. The provincial rounds of the Eastern Province was held in Batticaloa today while adhering to COVID-19 health guidelines. The winners of the provincial rounds of Vanita Abhimanya powered by NDB were felicitated today. The winners were chosen under 10 categories including entrepreneurship, youth leaders, volunteers, education, sports and environmental management. In line with the event, a series of programs including workshops for women were held with the support of the Vocational Training Authority.
Rehearsals for the 74th Independence Day commenced today. We will leave you that visuals as we wrap up tonight's edition of Primetime News here on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I'm David Paldano, along with the sign interpreter for tonight, Tarka Gabriel. Take care and good night.
The 74th Independence Day celebrations will be held at the Independence Square this year. Police said vehicular movement along several roads in Colombo would be restricted from tomorrow to the 4th of February for Independence Day rehearsals and the 74th Independence Day.